Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
And I'm Andrew Sabo.
And we are here this week to talk about episode 363, The Right Choice, Part 2.
Oh boy, are we. So many choices made in this episode, Dylan, and I have feelings. I will say right off the bat, I liked this episode significantly more than the previous one, but granted, you changed my mind on the previous one, so
Well, let's see if you can change my mind here, because I liked this one less.
Oh no.
I still liked it, but it didn't reach the highs of the previous one for me.
No, certainly. I feel like it would be...
No, certainly, Andrew says.
It's boring!
Agreeing... But you just said you like it better.
No, I do like it. I didn't say that I liked it better. I said I enjoyed it more the first time around. Because last time I listened to it, or the last time I listened to part one, I was like, oh, this is terrible. Then I talked to you about it, and I liked it a lot more. This time, I enjoyed it. Maybe it's because it has a happy ending.
Does it have a happy ending?
I suppose happier than part one.
Sure. Anyway, The point here is that we're talking about The Right Choice Part 2. It is another episode written and directed by Paul McCusker. It aired October 26th of 1996. And it's on the Welcome Home album.
Yeah.
I don't like the cover art for this one.
No.
Wit's proportions are weird.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got, like, these weird legs that go right into a rotund torso that his head sits on top of, and it
gives me very bobblehead fall off an airplane situation.
Yeah, it's not good. I never want to see him head to toe in this way.
Yeah.
So, but that's not the point of the episode.
It is remarkably... lacking in wit this episode.
The only real, I don't know, people we have to talk about, we've got the voice actor-wise, we've the one board member who's being played by Townsend Coleman. And we have oh gosh, what is her name? It's Rodlin.
Oh, Rodlin. Is that a real name? I've
Sure.
never met somebody named Rodlin.
We've got Rodlin, which is voiced by a one-time performer of Heather Seagard, who I assume worked for Focus on the Family, but I could not confirm that.
She could have been a neighbor or something.
Yeah. We once again do not have a promo to play, because once again the wiki is having problems. So maybe it will come back someday. Maybe not. If not, it's going to be sad. If anybody wants to email me their archive of all the promo audio, I'll take it.
This is far from a request.
If you want to mail me a flash drive that has all of it on, I'll take it.
Definitely. I'll set up a P.O. box.
If someone wants to just... I just want, like, the source files for the wiki so I never have to go to their site again. Nothing ever gets updated, but I've got it all on a flash drive.
Yeah, the Adventures in Odyssey wiki on my flash drive. Yeah. Foolproof logic.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, there's nothing that the wiki could really do that would update itself that I would care about.
Right, yeah. We're past the point of me paying any attention to New Odyssey.
Certainly. We've given up. I had that moment yesterday when I was thinking about the fact that we weren't subscribed to the club anymore, and we would have no way of, knowing how they write off Eugene and all that good stuff. And then I just took a deep old breath and realized I've got other things I can worry about.
Oh, and that's character development.
Amen. Honestly, you are not worth my time right now.
All right.
But this podcast is.
Oh, look at that. What a segue. So we begin with Wit in front of the board, where they make a proposal to him, but then we fade out before it is heard. And the next day, as him and Eugene are walking together, nope, not Eugene.
Jason.
As Jason and Wit are walking together, I guess, after the vote. We still don't know what it is.
Nope.
But we find out that one person voted against it.
Yeah.
That person, Jason Whittaker, I assume. I don't know. It's not stated. I don't know if he's on the board.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is Jason on the board?
But like, why would you state that there was a person who voted against it and it's just someone who we don't ever know? Maybe it'll come up in a later episode.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Is there anybody that we
know who's on the board? I think it's just Wayne.
Is Margaret Faye's never on the board at any point?
It's not like based in the. I mean, no, I don't.
Yeah,
Margaret Faye's not a Christian. She's also based like she's the mayor of Odyssey.
Oh,
she's not,
I'm sorry. I'm confusing.
She's not based in
Mary Story Shop Girl. Who's that? Mary, but
I assume. No, I mean that's so far after.
Yeah.
No. I appreciate you. Trying.
I was just trying to think. Because I feel like they mention, at least in the Novacom stuff, with all of like the board and.
But that's a different board.
Oh, is that a different
That's
board?
Andromeda. That's not.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
not
you're right.
the
That
Universal Press.
Yeah.
Universal Press has nothing to do with Wit's End, aside from the fact that
Wit owns both.
Right.
In the way that everything has to do with Wit's End.
Right. So. Yeah, they arrive back at the hotel to see Eugene sitting there. He was unable to get into the room because because Jason wasn't there and Jason booked the room or whatever.
Yeah, didn't have a key.
And yeah, he explains that he was up all night trying to justify that he wasn't part of a hacker group. Apparently, there had been a series of attacks of which he was just one. And which explains why the tracers were there and why it was so easy. They were trying to honeypot and it worked. And so the whole Eugene gets out of it by both showing his passport and saying I was not in the country, and then by Armitage just coming and swinging his Armitage around.
Yeah,
and
being all domineering and old, presumably.
Right. And rich.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, then Eugene got over to the hotel, and yeah, he's just, I don't know, spiraling out of control constantly in this episode.
Yeah.
In a way that I've never done in my life.
No, certainly.
I'm a very sound mind.
Yeah, and lack of sleep has never caused any problems in my life.
No.
Not once.
No, I've always known you to be well rested.
Oh, yeah. That's me. He sleeps so well. Okay, just before we move on, and I guess you haven't seen Succession, but if you know what I'm talking about, Armitage gives me very strong, like, Logan Roy energy, where he's just...
That's the patriarch, I assume?
Yeah. Okay. The old, rich, white dude that has, like...
Right, the Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch stand-in? That's what that's all based off of, right?
Sure. Is Murdoch Fox?
Yes.
Yes, then yes.
Yep, Fox and Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the way that they enunciate, or it's the age or something, or the fact that I just finished watching Succession. But Armitage, especially this voice actor, gives me very hard Logan Roy, where he just doesn't, like, he could say anything and people would just be scared of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I'm scared of him. So... yeah, then Jason reveals that he changed their flights, that they'll be taking off later in the day now, and that he's like, wouldn't you be excited about that? You know, you get to spend more time with Katrina, and Jane's like, well, we're not talking. She left in the middle of the night with Brandon. And yeah, then he's like, but why'd you change the flight? And Jason's like, well, we've got a meeting later today. The board wants Wit to be like a missions ambassador and kind of go back overseas and jump around to a bunch of places and whatnot. And Eugene's like, you wouldn't do that. And it's like, well, I haven't decided. He's like, but you're going to go back to Odyssey. And he's like, yeah, I'll go back to Odyssey for sure. But that's
decide.
Not right. But I need to take some time to reach this decision. And Eugene's freaking out about this as well. And then Wit's like, look, you should probably just like go get some rest, calm down. Eugene's been up for 46 hours and he's just not willing to listen to this and just kind of storms off to go find Katrina. But rather than Katrina, he finds Armitage Shanks.
Armitage Shanks. Yeah, and Armitage
saved the world.
Yeah. Armitage is honestly, like, I feel like his attitude really starkly shifts in this episode compared to the previous, where before he was just kind of like, this person I know, I'll keep him at an arm's length. But here he actually seems to have some amount of respect for Eugene, or maybe it's just a desire to preserve his relationship with his daughter. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, he's weird, and they, like, make him that way on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, the show is not super interested in making him, like, an internally logical character. Yeah. They like just kind of like playing fast and loose with like you never quite know what Armitage is gonna do, but he's always got like his own self-interest in mind, kind of, and so we get that here.
Well, and he's the patriarch, so he intrinsically has all the power in the situation as
well. Right. And he's like, well, Katrina's not here. Because Eugene's like, why are you here? He's like, I'm at my house. And Eugene's like, well, you were supposed to have your second honeymoon. And he was like, yeah, the mood just wasn't there. And so Eugene's like, well, where's Katrina? She at the university. Armitage was like, she's at the university, but like, I'm going to go play tennis. You should come with me.
Yeah. Eugene playing tennis. Lovely
I don't think
idea.
he plays, though. It just sounds like Armitage is hitting the ball as Eugene stands there next to him. Like, I assume it's like one of those, like, the robots that shoot the balls at you, and it's just Armitage practicing his swing.
That makes sense. A lot more sense than it being, like, a half tennis court built up against a wall. Which, like, you know how people do with ping pong?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was where my mind went immediately, and I was like, how could you do that? I don't know. I don't see too many people playing tennis alone. Like,
sure.
Even with robots, I don't see it.
Sure. No, you get like a pitching machine that just feeds you balls and you're practicing your swing. I mean, that's
normal.
It is.
Said the two people who don't play tennis.
Yeah, but I've seen Squid and the Whale like a bunch of times.
I guess there's the one tennis scene. Or multiple
there's
tennis.
A lot of that.
There's a lot of tennis in that
movie. The whole
movie
leans on tennis is a pretty strong metaphor.
Well, I only saw it the once, Dylan, so.
Well, it's a great movie. Watch it again.
Certainly. Plugs for the episode.
Yeah. Like, Squid and the Whale. It's great. It's almost 20 years old. Still great. Yeah, then, like, reveals that he plans to propose. But Armitage is like, well, why didn't you ask me? And he's like, well, I frankly didn't think you would say yes. And he's like, well, try me now.
Yeah.
And Eugene asks, and he says yes, but you better, like, step on it.
Yeah.
He's like, why? Brandon. He's like, because I also gave my permission to Brandon.
And Eugene just shoots out of the roof.
Yeah, well, and how do you feel about this whole thing?
Oh, Armitage giving permission to two men to do all that? I don't like it. I mean, I think the whole you have to ask the dad thing is a bit, is facetious the word I'm looking for?
It's not.
It's not. Redundant. I don't know. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But that being said, like, I think it definitely varies from person to person, and I think it has a lot more to do with the importance of developing a positive relationship with your future spouse's parents than it does the fact that it's their father and they're going to be giving you a goat or something in exchange for marrying their daughter.
Yeah.
So, like, I do see the value of it. I think that Armitage is absolutely unhinged, just sending a bunch of suitors towards his daughter when she's completely distraught at the time.
Yeah, I'm, like, of two minds about it, because on one hand, I'm like, yeah, like, the whole the whole like weird like song and dance formality of it, I'm like, I don't know that this is how we would do it if we were creating it from scratch today.
Yeah.
Is not what we would do. But like, I am a person who values tradition.
Oh, certainly.
And I do think that like it does, like you said, serve a purpose of, hey, like this is a relationship that matters. Try and like do that. But it is still like, yeah, I don't know. It's got the weird like patriarchal structure to it of just like the man has to ask the other man to marry the woman. Like it's just like it's very.
You need to sign the pink slip before you get the car. You know.
Yeah. But it's just like it's such a structure, and it's like, is that not is the wife's relationship with the husband's family also not important? Like it is just kind of like, I understand how we got to here, and I'm not upset that we continue to do it, but it's not a system that anyone would build from scratch.
Oh God, no.
And so it's interesting. I kind of love Armitage's unhinged take though.
Yeah,
because the part I don't like right, what you said about like all this just getting like thrown on Katrina. She's in a rough spot and he's not helping. On the flip side, I love the sentiment of like,
this
like,
is your problem. Like,
no. Of he says that the right man is, because Eugene's like, how do you know who the right man is? And she's like, he's like, the right man is whoever she chooses.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I like that supportive dad move of just being like, look, like this is me giving my permission means that like there is no reason that I think that this shouldn't happen. But it's also, I'm not gonna stand here and make a decision for my daughter.
Yeah, or say that I feel like this should happen one way or the other.
Like, I appreciate him kind of washing his hands of it and just being like, I don't know, my daughter's mature enough to figure it out. Like she'll decide, and I'll back her decision fully. And I'm like, I do like that a lot.
I think we should switch from fathers to mothers.
Yeah.
That's just personal thoughts. But you know, maybe, I don't know. I think I've been in significant relationships with more people that have good relationships with their mothers than their fathers. Say that what you will about me.
Yeah, I was gonna say. but por qué no los dos?
Yeah, why not both?
Like, just like sit them both down. Like, I feel like that is the play.
No, I do wholeheartedly agree, and I think that it makes a lot of sense, especially within like the modern iteration of a very traditional situation where like you've got two sets of family friends that have known each other for a really long time. These people have dated each other for a long time or whatever. And now it comes a time where, you know, we're thinking about tying the knot or whatever. Like, I think that makes a ton of sense if you have questions or concerns about it to mention that to mom, and then mention that to dad, or mention to mom that you want to talk to dad about it or something like that. Like, I think that it's you know, I think that those conversations can be really valuable, especially like getting married and having kids and everything is not as easy as it was when, you know, my parents did it and when their parents did it, I would say, as far as like resources and expenses and everything. It's a little bit more of a commitment, and I would I really appreciate the idea of having it be a little bit more of a group consensus where, yeah, sure, certainly if I wanted to, I could do it, but I appreciate being able to bounce it off somebody who's done it before, who understands things more complexly than me, and who would look at it and be like, yeah, you know what, you could marry my daughter, but I think that this plan of yours to have like a X, Y, and Z dollar amount wedding is real stupid, you know, or something like that. Yeah. Or like, oh, you know, I would love for you to marry my daughter, but I feel like the timing is a bit off, or we should wait, or something like that. And I think that those are discussions that are best had with both father and mother involved. And
sure.
Probably daughter, like, you know, talking to somebody about somebody else is weird in general, but yeah, I'm just, you know, pro open communication. Hot take.
Yeah, the hottest. The other thing Armitage says in this conversation that I think is good is he kind of plants this first one to plant the seed of, even though you may love each other, that doesn't mean you are right for each other.
So good. So good.
Which is I feel like a rare perspective, where like so often the narrative is one person loves the other, loves one, the other doesn't love them in that same way, so it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But this idea of like, no, you could both like genuinely love each other and that still not be a healthy relationship for you to enter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is like, I don't know, something that should be talked about more often.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely appreciate that level of nuance because it holds the value of both persons' autonomy in the situation where, like, yeah, this person is respectfully choosing you because they love you and they see value in this, but you can both be wrong about something, you know, and that's okay. And, like, it doesn't mean that the love's not real and the value's not there, but that, like, yeah, you can have a lot of really strong feelings for somebody that you're not necessarily best compatible with or right for. And I think that that's it's a surprisingly nuanced take for Odyssey to have in the 90s when this is coming out.
Yeah, and it's also, I don't know, it's the weird thing of like the gray area that Armitage functions in as like
The not
he's
Christian.
he's this older man. It's very much what June Kendall has to do as well, where it's like this person has to like dispense advice and be like wise, but also like they don't, like the show doesn't have any basis for why they would have those thoughts. It's just kind of like, well, we need someone to be wise. It makes sense that it's him, but we also can't give it like any backbone because we don't understand how you could have a worldview outside of what we believe. So like they're just kind of doing it for arbitrary reasons.
Oh, 100%. That's the only way that they feel comfortable giving power to non-Christians.
But yeah, so that's the end of that conversation, which I think is, a pretty good one.
It is, and I like you said, the sound engineering's great with the tennis shots and the grunting and all of that. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's fun. In the way that the last episode kind of felt like Eugene was going on a bit of a journey, like this episode definitely follows in that as well. Where there's a lot of different sound environments, and he's going to different places and having pretty significant conversations.
Yeah. And then, we have Eugene then sneaking into a, like, meeting of Christians at the college that Brandon and Katrina are, like, tag team leading.
Yeah.
And he, like, sneaks into the back, and then they're, like, breaking out in prayer, and so Eugene, like, corners Katrina and starts to pray with her and this girl, Rodlin, who's there as well. And Rodlin doesn't have a lot to do, but is funny. And we have Eugene being like, you know, yes, I would like you to go. And Katrina being like, no, we are in groups of 3. I need you here.
Yeah.
Please stay. And I'm just like, I do not want that, but it's just like, oh man, we are setting up for the most passive-aggressive prayer. And sure enough, it happens.
Yeah.
Andrew, have you been in the room for something like this?
So not as directly, like not as poignantly, but yes, I've definitely been in group prayers where you can tell that somebody is praying about somebody else in the room that doesn't quite know. And that's uncomfy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I mean, this is a classic youth group blunder where you just want to pray with the girl that you're interested in, but they said it's groups of 3, and so somebody ends up coming through, and whether it's your friend that's also interested in the girl or something else, things tend to happen.
Yeah.
Prayer groups should be groups of 2. That's the take of this podcast. No, I disagree. I think 3 is definitely the proper choice.
It is such a like youth group trope to be like, we are breaking into small groups of prayer. Everyone go gather with the girl that they are crushing on.
Oh yeah, 100%. And make sure you talk about how you stumbled, but you're growing so fast. Like, you know, you got to show a sense of humility, but also just real exceptional anointing from the Lord. So that they understand what they're dealing with. Dylan, did anything like this ever happen to you? Did you ever have somebody flirt with you via prayer? Has that ever happened?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like that's on brand if it were to have happened that you wouldn't necessarily have known.
Yeah, not always the best at picking up on that stuff, but...
Well, and it was also several years ago at this point. It's hard to remember specific conversations.
I was a child when I was in youth group. So, yeah, they are now just like... we just burst into the shouting match that Brandon then has to break up. And then it becomes Eugene versus Brandon, and he's talking about, you know, the fact that he hasn't...
Oh, you say his name and he magically appears.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and
I do not like Brandon. I will say, this episode made me like Brandon a lot less.
Brandon's not even in this episode. Like, he's barely here.
I know, and that's the problem. He needs to be here less. So I appreciate it. I understand maybe necessarily like the angle that he's trying to go. But if he just proposed to somebody and she said that she needed space, I feel like he should have removed himself farther from the situation and maybe given her some more time.
Sure, but to be fair, he
was
doesn't...
a leader, yeah.
Like, they're leading this together. He's not the one who brings up the proposal or anything. That's all Eugene.
Oh, true. No, but...
Like, Eugene's the one who, like, takes the conversation in that direction then.
No, I know. But the fact that he had proposed to her last episode, she said,
on the drive to this meeting.
Oh. Well, see, when you say it like that... I was presuming, you know, maybe there was a pit stop in there somewhere. They spent the night at home or something.
Yeah, actually, I think it is the next day.
Yeah.
But still...
No, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the way that you be the bigger person in all of this is actually give Katrina the space to make a decision and the autonomy to like come to you when she's ready.
Yeah, and I would argue that like he's doing that just fine.
That's fair.
They're both here leading this thing, which is a prior commitment and whatever, but he's not doing what Eugene's doing and pressuring her throughout.
Yeah, and he's not praying with her.
Right. Like, he's, he only comes in
something, though,
after, right. I mean, that's what I expected, was it was going to be Katrina, Brandon, and Eugene.
Yeah.
Instead, we get Rodlin. Big fan.
Not so much of her later work, but...
But he... Yeah, this is... Right, Eugene talks about Brandon, like, wielding his influence over her, and I'm just like... You once again, like, won't let Katrina have agency here? Like, the same complaint that she had last episode's coming up again, and this is where I'm just like, there are not a lot of beats in their conflict here that we didn't already get last episode, and so that's where it started to wear me down a little bit.
Yeah. But there's no tennis in the last episode, so, you know, sport ball. Points in my book.
Great. And this is, he throws out the proposal thing, and she's like, Brandon already proposed. And Eugene's like, oh, well, what did you say? Like, why are you so... She said, I said I had to think about it. I didn't say yes immediately because I love you. And Eugene...
Is that the first time we hear that?
Her say it directly to him? Yes.
Yeah.
Because she previously... Does she say it in Unto Us a Child is Born?
No, because he says
he
it
mumbles
when she
it to
walks
himself. Away. Okay.
Yeah.
She doesn't say it before that. It's just him saying it to himself, and then right.
Unless she says it to herself.
She says it to Jason on his behalf. She does the like today I learned to love.
Yes.
And today what I learned what it means to love and what it means to have heartbreak or whatever.
Yeah.
So like. But no, I don't think she's ever said that to him until this moment.
I mean, that's pretty significant. I feel like, yeah. Also, wow, you want to marry this dude and you haven't even said I love you to him face to face?
She wants to marry Eugene?
Well, I mean, she's considering it. I feel like I would not.
Yeah, well, I mean but this is the whole problem is that we have escalated. Neither of them have been on an expressed date with the other. Like Brandon and Katrina have never been on a date. Katrina and Eugene have never been on a date.
That's fair. I suppose
Like, that was actually, like, where they upfront said, this is a date. Not where, like, they were hanging out together and the guy was thinking it and the girl was maybe thinking it, but, like, it wasn't spoken. Something I've never done.
Yeah, no, never, not once.
But, like, this is... They have... Right. That's the whole crazy thing about these two episodes is, like, neither of these combos have ever been on a date together, and they are both proposing.
Yeah. Really, really big swings here.
Yeah, don't do that.
Bad
If you take one thing away from this episode, don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, yeah, and she calls Eugene on the possessiveness and whatever, and says, like, it's like you're in this childish panic over losing your favorite toy. Meanwhile, Brandon's over here, like, he will be happy either way because he truly loves me.
Yeah.
Which, having been in this position, the happiness is complex.
No, yeah, you can wish somebody well and be like, oh, I mean, yeah, you can respect that they're making choices for their own happiness, or, you know, you can respect the value that goes into their decision-making process. But to say that, like, I'm happy for the other person who's with the person I want to be with, that's a bit strong.
yeah. But
I can accept that, you know, maybe it just didn't fall in my favor this time, but the happiness is perhaps too mature for me.
Yeah, and then she goes on to explain that she's like, she's not going to make this decision lightly or on a whim, and Eugene talks about, like, being new to the idea of love, and that, like, he's really trying to navigate this well, but, like, this uncertainty and, like, the teeter-totter of their relationships is really stressing him out. And, like,
fair.
Yeah, right, which I totally get. But what he does then is, rather than being like, so can we commit to dating for a month? Or, you know, like, there are ways to go about this that are like, hey, can we, like, have a level of commitment here so that we're not just guessing and I don't have to worry about what you're not doing with some person and all of that stuff. He instead just decides to go full grand gesture with a side of ultimatum and propose. And we cut to commercial.
Classic. Terrible idea.
Yeah, Katrina just said that she does not want to make a decision lightly or on a whim, and Eugene says, I'm proposing right now and I'm not leaving until you tell me yes or no.
Yeah. Really just ignore what she said.
Yeah.
Really just not value how she's experiencing any of this. And the thing that came to mind when I was listening to this, and I don't know whether it's intentional or not, but Brandon is displaying, like, what at least I would understand to be, like, a much more secure attachment to Katrina, where he respects, he acknowledges his value to Katrina and the value that their relationship has, and he has his own desires for it, but he also understands that it's not a matter, like, at this point, it's not a matter of what he does, it's a matter of whether it's right or not. And so that's why you see Brandon taking a bit more of a step back and then coming up later. And then you see Eugene displaying an anxious attachment style, which is the opposite. Well, I won't say the opposite, but another end of the spectrum where it's, I need to talk to you. I must have these conversations because I feel like I'm not being understood, or because I feel like, I wasn't communicating clearly, or something of the like. But it's just the idea that I constantly need to be doing more so that this is okay. And, like, that's a quintessential anxious attachment style, and that's really easy, and it's a natural thing to fall into, I feel like, in our culture, because we're such a like a productivity and like the Protestant work ethic of it all. Like that's what we value, is what people do and what the products are. But when it comes to relationships and stuff like this, I feel like it's so important to just kind of let them be. And, being secure in the relationship is really more so being secure in yourself and your ability to adapt to the relationship as it changes and to listen to your partner's needs. But yeah, no, it was just very interesting, and I didn't think about it at all in the previous episode, but this morning when I was prepping for this, I was like, oh wow, yeah, this is quintessential anxious attachment style. Like, this guy is just, he's literally traveling all over the state because he can't give her space to think about something because he feels like he has to say something. So that's the end of my monologue. Dylan, what do you have to say?
No, I've been that bundle of anxiety.
Yeah.
Over what's going to happen with the relationship, but also.
Oh yeah. Well, and so there's.
And I get how that can drive you to then go too hard too fast.
Oh yeah. Well, and then there's the other end of the spectrum of the anxious, and then there's the avoidant attachment style, which is if you feel like something's potentially unsettling, you run as far away from it as possible and don't really acknowledge anything that's happening, which also would be equally destructive, as if like Eugene embarrassed himself and then disappeared back to the Middle East for another 2 weeks and never said anything to Katrina about what happened.
Yeah.
Like, it's all a spectrum of response, but I just think it's interesting how this episode kind of contrasts the two different responses to a really stressful relationship situation because they both have permission to propose to this girl.
Yeah. And yeah, we cut to commercial. We're back at the airport now. Jason's trying to board. It's like we gotta wait for Eugene. All of a sudden, we see Eugene racing towards them with Katrina. They have a really nice hug goodbye.
Great hug sounds.
Yep. Odyssey nails the hugs. And then...
I was listening for a kiss, but it never came.
Nope. And then Eugene reveals that he proposed, and Katrina said no. But that he's still happy that they might not be right for each other, but he's accepted who he is and is giving this conflict over to God.
That's huge.
It's a great sentiment. Ouch. Also, their dynamic there of like I recognize that the show is trying to keep suspense for the audience of whether or not they're together or not. I do find it hard to believe that Eugene is like that chill about things to be able to like it's good messaging, and that like it's the message of these episodes is finally sunk in. But the fact that they're like running up to each other, like running up together, chatting with each other, like Katrina came with him to the airport, they're giving like a nice tender hug goodbye.
Nobody said they say I love you, and he says
yes.
She says I love you as well or something.
Yeah, right.
Or
and
you
then
as well or something.
And then it's like, yeah, but she turned me down. Hard for me to wrap my mind around.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I think it makes sense thematically. I just don't think it necessarily makes sense realistically.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just because I'm immature like Eugene was.
Certainly. I think I might be in the same camp. And by might, I mean definitely am.
Yeah. The other thing that's really nice here is Eugene just stating like just because we love each other doesn't necessarily mean we're right for each other. You should know something about that, Jason.
Oh yeah, just dunk on him, full tongue out, Michael Jordan. You know you like.
Yeah. Also in this scene, we have Jason say pussyfooting, which I recognize is a word that means something.
Oh, it does.
But like.
I don't like it.
It was still wild to hear that from his mouth in this show.
We could just not, though. Like, I understand it does exist, but there are also other words.
You hear that, Paul McCusker? There are other words. The 90s were a tamer time, you know?
Yes, they really were. Back when people had decency.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, this is truly a whirlwind of an episode. Well, actually, that's not true. Compared to last episode, it's very tame. But it does feel like a rocky landing for everything that was established last episode.
Yeah, I mean, this episode's got to do a lot because it's also moving the Wit plotline forward, which it didn't care about last episode, and like it lands things in like an interesting way where we're like, okay, what is the story going forward here?
Yeah,
like it's
Well, and like I said, I really like the juxtaposition of Brandon and Eugene and kind of their different approaches to things and their disposition throughout it all. And, you know, I like Brandon significantly less than Eugene, but he is doing a better job of minding his P's and Q's. So I can't knock on him for that. Yeah, no, I really did appreciate this episode, though. I really enjoyed the scene with Eugene and Armitage. That conversation that they were able to have, I thought was cool and valuable. Just because it didn't feel like, even though it was a very kind of patriarchal and traditional kind of conversation to have, and the whole like asking permission to marry your daughter and all of that nonsense, like it felt more like Armitage was viewing Eugene as just like, you know, a younger peer, but a peer as opposed to a child or something like that he has to protect his daughter from, which I think is cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. There doesn't seem to be a lot of clarity from the writing staff as far as what should be happening. With their relationship at this point. Like, there's been a lot of hemming and hawing, like, that we feel in these episodes, and from the stuff in both the complete guide and the official guide, it feels like that is also where they are at, because they talk about, like, they couldn't decide whether or not to have these two be married.
Yeah.
When they did Love is in the Air, they thought, hey, maybe we do this now, especially with Eugene being a Christian. But then they had kind of decided that this episode, the right choice, was going to be the one where they would like end that relationship.
Yeah.
But then when the note was that when they recorded these episodes, the chemistry between them came alive like never before.
Oh my gosh.
Which made them rethink whether or not they should actually end the relationship.
This is Pamela Hayden and Will Ryan.
I don't feel like they have... I feel like they have better chemistry in every episode we've heard them in than these two.
Yeah, 100%. They do not feel more separate than this episode.
But it had been whatever it was, a couple years since they'd done a they'd done a Eugene and Katrina episode. So I guess that they just kind of forgot how fire these two are together, and just like now they did it, and
I'm gonna start
now they're
Millhouse
like, all right,
fanfic.
Yeah. There goes our plans to write Katrina off the show and break up this couple. Now I guess we're not gonna do that yet. And so this is not the last that we will see of Katrina.
Shocker.
I know. Crazy, right?
Oh man. Yeah, that would make the green ring really weird. That wasn't Katrina the whole time.
I mean, it's not Pamela Hayden.
No, that's true. Disappointingly.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that we gotta cover here?
I don't think so. It was a brief episode, and it was mostly the Eugene and Katrina stuff, which I feel like we talked about pretty heavily. Yeah. So I feel good about it. I liked the episode. I mean, it was frustrating, sure, probably more frustrating than the previous episode.
I don't know.
I liked the thoughts that it made me have.
Yeah. The previous episode is definitely like more awkward to listen to. Like they play that up. this episode's a little bit more slight, doesn't have, it's a little breezier, while still having like interesting stuff. Some of the swings the last episode takes, I love.
Oh,
and I don't feel like there's much in this episode that we didn't already get in the last one. And so,
and there are like no swings.
yeah. And so I like it a little bit less, but still not a bad episode.
Certainly. Yeah. Well, and all things considered, I remember so much of the Eugene and Katrina arc and relationship, and I don't really remember these episodes super clearly, other than the way that the desk clerk voiced by Robert Mitchell in the previous episode said "melts near." That is in there. That is stuck in my brain forever.
I'm happy for you.
No, don't be, because I didn't think it was there until I heard it, and then I was like, oh god.
So not to call you out, but I noticed it when we were editing last episode, and I just wanted to establish here for the record, I double checked to make sure I was right, but Steve Bridges is not Steve Burns.
Oh, yep, thank you. Yep, different people.
You made a joke about Rodney that I didn't catch in the moment last time until I was editing.
Yes.
And then you just said the Mitch thing now, and I was like, just so we're clear. Steve Bridges is in a bunch of episodes of Odyssey,
but
he is not Steve Burns. Though I understand the confusion.
Certainly. Yeah, when I said that in the previous episode, I did have like a little, like, I think that's the right person, but I wasn't sure, and then stuck with it. Committed to it. Because I knew his name was Steve, and that sounded familiar enough.
Fair enough.
And
to be fair, I wasn't 100% confident either. That's why I
had to fact check.
Yep.
Do you have anything to plug this episode, Dylan?
I mean, I already shouted out The Squid and the Whale. I'll just double down on that. It's a great movie.
It is a great movie.
How about you, Andrew?
The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan is a fantasy book. In the Wheel of Time series. It's very old. Well, not super old, but old. Don't watch the Amazon Prime show. It's terrible. Read the books. They're so much better.
Okay.
I've been listening to them at work. I'm about like 3/4 of the way through the first book, and they're like 700-ish pages. But the first 4 books are supposed to be really solid, but there's like 11. So if you're into fantasy books, I've got material for you.
Wow. There you go. All right, and with all that being said, we will be back next week for episode 364, Home, Sweet Home.